They invited her to laugh at Hero Broken Bar, but when Victoria Sterling walked into the ballroom like a queen, every cruel smile froze, and in that moment, the entire Beverly Hills elite realized they had no idea who they were dealing with. The main hall of the Blackwood mansion in Beverly Hills was drowning in glittering lights, the air thick with expensive perfume, forced smiles, and concealed malice. Laughter erupted when Victoria Sterling appeared at the top of the marble staircase, her figure draped in a dress so breathtaking it silenced even the chandeliers. But the laughter that followed wasn't admiration, it was cruel, mocking, and meant to wound. "Look who decided to show up," Richard Blackwood whispered smugly to his circle of wealthy friends, raising his glass of Dom P8 tilde copyright Trignan in a silent toast to the trap he thought he had set. For 2 long years, Victoria had been nothing more than the mansion's silent shadow, the cleaning lady who polished the marble floors and dusted crystal chandeliers, her presence blending into the luxurious walls she scrubbed. They never really saw her adjust a uniform, a pair of hands, someone beneath them. When the invitation arrived 3 days ago, handed over with Richard's signature smirk, she had known exactly what it was, a setup. "Charity gala on Saturday," he'd said casually, sliding the gold-embossed envelope across the kitchen counter while his guests chuckled behind him. "Dress code, maximum elegance. I'm sure you've got something stunning in your wardrobe, don't you?" The mocking laughter followed her long after she walked away. Richard didn't stop there. To make the humiliation complete, he'd whispered to his wife Helena the day before, while Victoria vacuumed just a few feet away. "100 grand says she doesn't have the guts to show up, and if she does, she'll be tonight's entertainment." Helena, sipping her wine, gave a sharp laugh. "Oh, Richard, you're cruel. She'll probably come wearing something borrowed and run out crying in 15 minutes. But Richard Blackwood didn't know Victoria Sterling, and not really. He didn't know the halls she grew up in, the people she once dined with, the wealth she once touched before life stripped it all away. He didn't know that some storms don't destroy, they teach you how to dance in the rain. When Victoria entered the ballroom, every mocking glance slid off her like raindrops on glass. Her back was straight, her stride unshaken, and her gaze calm as serene, even as if she carried secrets that could shatter the empire surrounding her. The soft rustle of her crimson gown whispered power with each step, the slit revealing just enough to demand attention but never ask for it. "My God, she actually came." Patricia Weston, the senator's wife, murmured to her friend, her champagne glass trembling slightly. "And look at that dress." Vivian Chambers, daughter of an oil magnate, hissed beside her. "She probably rented it and will be paying it off in installments." How pathetic. What none of them knew, what none of them could possibly guess, was that Victoria hadn't borrowed, bought, or rented a single thing. That dress of the exquisite silk, the handcrafted detailing, the heirloom diamond necklace resting against her collarbonia was hers. It was a piece of her past, a chapter she had locked away when life forced her to trade chandeliers for mop buckets. She wasn't there to beg for their acceptance. She wasn't there to belong. She was there to remind them that power doesn't always wear a tuxedo, and dignity doesn't come with a price tag. And as Victoria descended the final steps, silence fell over the hall. Even the chandeliers seemed to tremble, reflecting a woman who had arrived not as the cleaning lady they once mocked but as the storm they never saw coming. The game had changed. They just didn't know it yet. The main hall of the Blackwood mansion was still buzzing with laughter and champagne-fueled arrogance when Victoria descended the staircase, her crimson gown flowing like liquid fire beneath the chandeliers. Every mocking eye turned toward her, expecting submission, embarrassment, and humiliation. Instead, what they found was a calm so sharp it cut through the air like glass. Richard Blackwood approached her with a confident smirk. His billionaire friends gathered around him like a pack waiting to feast. "Victoria," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "What a pleasant surprise. I never doubted you'd come. After all, when a person like you receives an invitation to an event like this." "A person like me?" Victoria interrupted, her voice soft but commanding, silk wrapped around steel. "Go on, Richard, finish your sentence." For the briefest moment, his arrogance faltered. Something in her tone, in the way she held his gaze, unsettled him. But his pride quickly returned, his smile widening. Well, you know, he continued, forcing a casual laugh, someone who doesn't normally a broken bar frequent this kind of environment. You must be feeling quite intimidated by all this elegance. Victoria tilted her head slightly, the hint of a serene smile touching her lips. Not nervous, not submissive, something far more dangerous. Intimidated? She repeated softly, her voice steady, her dark eyes locked on his. No, Richard, I'm feeling exactly where I've always belonged. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. A few guests stopped laughing. A ripple passed through the crowd, as though everyone instinctively sensed a shift in power they couldn't yet explain. Richard straightened his jacket, trying to reclaim control. Well, he said stiffly, I hope you enjoy the evening. I'm sure it will be educational for you. Victoria's gaze swept slowly across the room, her presence commanding in a way that unsettled even the most arrogant among them. Oh, I'm sure, she replied. It will be educational for all of us. The energy in the room changed instantly. Whispers spread. Phone cameras tilted discreetly. People sensed something coming, something bigger than the trap Richard thought he had set. He smirked again, trying to hold on to his moment of power. Raising his crystal glass, he tapped it with a silver spoon, drawing the attention of everyone present. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard announced loudly, I'd like to introduce our special guest tonight, Victoria, our dedicated cleaning lady. The ballroom erupted in laughter. Champagne glasses clinked. Cell phone flashes went off as guests eagerly snapped photos, ready to post sarcastic captions. Helena, Richard's wife, leaned close and whispered, feigning concern, Don't you think this is a little cruel? Cruel? Richard chuckled darkly. I'm giving her the opportunity of a lifetime. When else would someone like her ever get to attend an event like this? Victoria stood still in the center of the room, her posture flawless, her gaze unwavering. But instead of humiliation, there was something else in her expression, a serenity laced with power. Patricia Weston approached, surrounded by her circle of friends, all wearing smiles sharpened into knives. Victoria, dear, Patricia said sweetly, her voice dripping with venom. Tell me, how long did it take you to choose that dress? Must have been quite a challenge finding something suitable. Victoria turned to her, her voice soft but steady. Actually, she said calmly, this dress has a very special history. It belonged to my mother. The group exchanged amused glances. Vivian Chambers let out a cruel laugh. And where did your mother get a dress like that? Some high-end thrift store? Victoria smiled slowly, dangerously. My mother wore this dress the last time she attended a ballroom like this. That was 20 years ago, when she was still Victoria Temps Blackwood. The entire hall froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses stopped clinking. Even the music seemed to fade into silence. Richard, who had been laughing with his friends, turned sharply. What a broken bar did you say? Temps Blackwood, Victoria repeated, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a blade. It's funny how some people conveniently forget their own family history. Color drained from Richard's face. Helena instinctively clutched his arm, sensing something deeply wrong. You're delirious, Richard said, forcing a hollow laugh. I don't know what game you're playing. This isn't a game, Richard, Victoria interrupted, stepping forward. It's history. Our history. The history you tried to erase when you decided it was easier to pretend that certain people in our family never existed. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Cameras clicked faster. Murmurs swelled like a rising tide. From her purse, Victoria pulled out a small velvet box. Inside it was a ring, an ornate heirloom engraved with the Blackwood family crest, topped with a rare blue sapphire. She held it high for everyone to see. This ring, she said, her voice steady, was given to my mother by her father Henry Blackwood. My grandfather, the man you told the world died without an heir. Richard staggered back slightly. Where did you get that? How dare you steal from my family? Steal? Victoria's laugh was cold and sharp. You can't steal what's already yours by birthright. Patricia Weston, her hand over her mouth, whispered to Vivian, oh my god, a broken bar. Do you think she's telling the truth? Impossible, Vivian muttered, though her voice was shaky now. Richard would have told us if he had a cousin. Victoria turned slowly, her expression unreadable. Cousin? No, darling, I'm not Richard's cousin. She paused deliberately, locking eyes with him. I'm his half-sister. The room erupted in chaos. Shocked gasps, Muffled cries. The frantic tapping of phones. Richard looked as if lightning had struck him. "This is ridiculous," he shouted, but his voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. "Henry Blackwood had an affair with my mother, Isabella," Victoria said, her words relentless, deliberate. "She was the family's piano teacher. When she got pregnant with me, he promised to take care of us. And he did a broken bar until the day he died." Helena's hand flew to her mouth as she stared at her husband in horror. Richard opened his mouth, but Victoria's voice sliced through his protests like a razor. "You decided it would be easier to erase us. You cut off our allowance. You sold the house your father bought for my mother. You left us to starve while you drowned yourself in luxury." The weight of her words sank into the marble floors, into the silence that followed. Guests shifted uncomfortably, subtly stepping away from Richard as though scandal were contagious. He tried to recover, straightening his posture. "Prove it," he demanded. "Anyone can invent a story and flash an old ring." Victoria smiled, slow and predatory. "Oh, Richard, a broken bar? Do you really think I came here without proof?" She nodded toward the entrance. "You can come in now." 3 people entered the hall, and with them came the unraveling of an empire. Diane Morrison, Beverly Hills' most respected investigative journalist. David Chun, a powerful inheritance attorney. And finally, Dr. Hamilton, the Blackwood family's private physician. The sight of him made Richard stagger like a man hit in the chest. "Dr. Hamilton," Helena whispered in shock. "What are you doing here?" The doctor stepped forward, his hands trembling but his voice steady. 20 years ago," he said, "I was forced to sign a falsified death certificate. Henry Blackwood did not die of natural causes. He was poisoned." Slowly, deliberately, a wave of gasps rolled through the hall. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered loudly against the marble floor. Richard's voice rose in panic. "This is insane. My father died of heart failure." Dr. Hamilton's gaze was unyielding. "Your father discovered you'd been embezzling millions from the company. He changed his will to include Victoria. And then he started showing symptoms of arsenic poisoning." The room erupted in whispers. Cameras focused entirely on Richard now. Helena's face was pale, her hand clutching her pearls as though holding on to reality itself. Victoria didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence was power, and her presence was vengeance made flesh. David Chun opened his briefcase, pulling out documents sealed with court stamps. "We had Henry Blackwood's remains exhumed last week. Independent labs confirmed lethal levels of arsenic. Mr. Blackwood, this is no longer a family matter. It's murder." "No," Richard roared, but it sounded more like a plea than defiance. "This is a conspiracy, a setup." Victoria finally spoke, her voice slicing through the chaos. "You didn't just kill our father, Richard. You stole 20 years of my life, 20 years of dignity, 20 years of justice denied." Richard's knees weakened beneath him. Panic washed over his face as whispers turned into judgment. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "Helena, a broken bar. The children, a broken bar. This will destroy us." Helena stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. "No, Richard," she whispered. "You destroyed us." Diane Morrison stepped forward, connecting her laptop to the mansion's projector. Documents, bank transfers, emails, and voice recordings flashed onto the giant screen. One transfer caught everyone's attention. $200,000 wired from Richard's personal account to Dr. Hamilton 3 days after Henry's death. The memo line read, "Silence is golden." The final blow came when Victoria played an audio recording through the mansion's sound system. Richard's own voice filled the room. "Keep your mouth shut about the old man's blood, Hamilton. If you say a word, I'll ruin you. And as for that woman and her bastard daughter, they'll have to fend for themselves." Silence, absolute, crushing. Even Richard's closest allies recoiled from him, whispering among themselves. Helena stepped back, her face wet with silent tears. The sirens outside grew louder. Police lights flashed against the crystal windows. Officers entered the ballroom just as Victoria turned to face Richard one last time. "You destroyed your own life, Richard," she said softly. "I just brought the truth into the light." As they placed handcuffs on him, cameras clicked like lightning. Outside, dozens of reporters shouted questions, their microphones thrust forward, broadcasting Beverly Hills' biggest scandal live to the world. Victoria walked past the chaos, her steps calm and deliberate. The storm she had waited 20 years to unleash finally consuming the man who once mocked her existence. And this was only the beginning.